Sing that about every other week. We know that one. Okay? If you want to stand and sing, you want to sit on standing on the promises or sitting on the premises? What are you doing? Here we go. All the way my Savior leads me, what have I to ask beside? Can I doubt his tender mercy, who through life has been my guide? Heavenly peace, divinest comfort, here by faith in him to dwell. For I know whatever befall, Jesus doeth all things well. For I know whatever befall me, Jesus doeth all things well. All the way my Savior leads me, cheers each winding path I tread, gives me grace for heavy trial, feeds me with the living bread. Though my weary steps may falter, and my soul athirst may be, gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. Gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. All the way my Savior leads me, oh, the fullness of his love. Perfect rest to me is promised in my Father's house above. When my spirit clothed immortal wings its flight to realms of day, this my song through endless ages, Jesus led me all the way. This my song through endless ages, Jesus led me all the way. Very much. You will see. Let's go a little in prayers. Anybody have a spoken prayer request? David called a few minutes before church and left a message. Marie's sister Dorothy was in the hospital they taken to the hospital on Sunday. She wasn't doing well, but she's actually doing. She's had trouble walking, but she's doing better. So we keep her in prayers. And then pray for Marie. They couldn't be here tonight, so keep them in your prayers. Pray for Patsy. She's taking her radiation treatments now, 5 days a week for 4 weeks, and we'll see how that goes from there. Okay, pray for Patsy for healing from cancer. Okay. Anybody else? Please pray. Rachel. Okay. 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 Sounds like they opened a bowling alley upstairs on it. Okay. Anybody else with a spoken request? Anybody with unspoken request? Something you want to pray about? Yes, sir. Tony Walker. Sonny Walker. Yeah. Okay, that's recent. Oh, you know he's going to have it. Okay. I saw a guy today at Stop Lowe's to pick up something. The guy used to come here years ago, named Tim, and I said, "How you doing?" And he's talking about retirement, or whatever. And he said, "I'm gonna need replaced." It's kind of like I guess that's the thing we talk about when we get older. Yeah, got this replaced. It works now, so it's good. So, okay, so Sonny Walker recover. Hey, anybody else? Any unspoken requests that you want to pray about? Not to mention that now. All right, Jonathan, you lead some prayer. Amen. Okay, kids lesson in the back. We've been talking about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and the 12 brothers. And so last week we talked about Joseph being in prison, and Joseph, God gave Joseph dreams as a young man, 17 years old. God gave him dreams. And so Joseph has a gift, a talent that he can interpret dreams. He doesn't do it every day. He doesn't have dreams every day, but God gave him a gift that he can interpret dreams, okay, at special times. And it's not just Joseph. And Joseph acknowledges, he says, "It's not me. God will give you an answer of peace." So last week we talked about the fact that the butler and the baker came in. They were thrown in prison, and Joseph interpreted their dreams. The butler was restored to his butlership, and the baker has head removed, and the birds ate his flesh. Okay. Well, anyway, the butler forgot all about Joseph interpreting his dreams until Pharaoh had a dream. And Pharaoh's dream was that in his dream he saw 7 cows, fat cows, come up out of the river and feeding on the bank of the river, and they were healthy and fat. But then 7 skinny cows came up and they fed on the river beside the fat cows. But they ate the fat cows until there was nothing left of the fat cows. But the skinny cows stayed skinny, didn't get fat. Then he had a dream of a stalk of corn, and 7 ears of corn came up, real thick, full ears of corn, and they looked good. But then 7 real skinny ears came up and devoured the 7 fat ears, and the skinny ears didn't get fat. So Pharaoh told his men, somebody interpret this dream, tell me what this dream is, because it was bothering him. Okay, that he had this, was so vivid, he knew there was something, it meant something, but he couldn't figure it out. So the butler said, I hate to bring up the fact that I got in trouble, got thrown in prison by you, by the king, by Pharaoh. He said, but there's a guy that can interpret dreams. So they brought Joseph in, and Joseph said, I don't have a gift in myself. There's nothing I can do on it. I can tell you what your dream means. He said, but there is a God who will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And that's the biggest thing. God, all that Joseph does throughout his entire life is give God the glory for what he does. But with this lesson with the kids, what I wanted to emphasize to the kids tonight was when Pharaoh had this dream, it had to do with what was going to happen today and for the next 7 years, right? And then for the next 7 years after that too. And what I wanted to emphasize with the kids was God knows what's going to happen in the future. He has a plan for you. Now, I want to emphasize this. We're older. We can understand this maybe a little bit better. But I want to emphasize with the kids, no matter how old they are, I'd say Della and Charlie were about 7 years old, but the youngest one's in there, with the understanding of no matter what's going on in their life, God has a plan if they'll trust him, right? And what trust is also equal to being obedient to knowing what he says, okay? To listen to what he says, to read your Bible and pray, and listen to Sunday school teachers, and listen to your classes, Wednesday night teachers, but to read your Bible and to listen for God's voice, because he will let you know if you can't see what's going to happen. Anybody know what's going to happen 7 years from now? Anybody really care? What about 14 years from now? Anybody know? Okay. It's kind of funny. Every month when unemployment numbers come out or economic numbers come out, well, the economists have it wrong this month. Yeah, and they say it every month, right? And yet we overestimated on this, or we underestimated on this. They're guessing, right? God doesn't guess. Nothing's ever just occurred to him and said, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. When Adam ate the fruit in the Garden of Eden, God said, I didn't know that was going to happen. He didn't say that. He knew. Okay? When Moses led the children of Israel to the Red Sea, the Pharaoh's armies come behind them and the Red Sea's in front of them. God knew what he was going to do. Don't worry about it. He knows what's going to happen. Okay? He knows what's going to happen 7 years from now or 14 years from now. He knows what's best, and we can trust him for what's best. But trust means we obey him. Okay? Trust means being obedient. I guess I could say this kind of stuff about work. I've had bosses through my years. I think I'm 60 years old when working since about 15. And I've had bosses through my years that had no idea what was going on at the job. I've had bosses in my years that are spot on everything that they do, right? I've had bosses that are greatly concerned about what's going to happen in our businesses, the businesses that I've worked with for the last 45 years. And it's kind of funny, in the last few years, I walked up to my bosses in the last few years especially and said, everything's okay. We don't know what's going to happen. They had no idea what's going to happen. We thought we should shut down during COVID. If we had, we wouldn't have jobs now. But we didn't shut down one day during COVID, except for we was out for 2 weeks when we had COVID. But other than that, we didn't shut down. And the guy that owns our company, we had a Christmas party this year, and we were going through a rough spot with business. I mean, a really bad spot for some people. And I had confidence to him. He's a Christian guy. I had confidence that God's in control. Everything's all right. I mean, I'm talking to him one-on-one, not business-wise. God's in control. He knows what's going on. We're okay. And it's going to be okay, right? Hopefully our kids get that. kids shouldn't have to worry. Okay, I think about stuff with in today's news, this morning's news. Tammy reads the news to me sometimes because I'm doing other stuff. So she read the news to me about twin 2-year-old boys in Jackson County. You all read it? Cats nod their head. Anybody else read about this? Okay, that I guess it's their parents and some other adult, so-called adult, that live in the house have locked these boys in a room, with padlocked on the outside, and shoved Cheerios under the door to them. Okay, and so one of the boys, when someone finally, it's at apartments in Ripley somewhere, Jackson County. To where someone finally called, and then CPS went in, arrested the parents, took one of the two twin-year-old boys. One of them was dehydrated, unresponsive, and right. It's on the news today. It's just on the news today. I think just found out about it yesterday, whatever. So one of the boy was taken, I think, first hospital, and I think it eventually ended up at Ruby in Morgantown. Anyway, really bad shape, right? Twins, a lot of times one's dominant. The dominant one probably ate more Cheerios than the other. Okay, locked in a room with filth. They were only 2 years old. Yeah, I think they said 2 years old. I think if we got the news right, reading this morning on the news. Okay. I think God has a plan. Did God know the kids were there? Yep. He knew the whole time. Okay. He has a plan for everybody. Does God know what's going to happen to those boys 7 years from now? Yes, He does. Okay. Does God have a plan for that child as an adult? Yes. The sick one? Yeah. And the other one too. Both of them. Okay. I've heard so many testimonies of Christians. I love this. One of my favorite illustrations is Tim Lee, whose dad was a preacher in Oklahoma. He grew up in a Baptist church like our church. His dad was a pastor, and he set track meet records for the state when he was in high school, for the state of Oklahoma. And he's the fastest kid in the state running. He was walking by a poster one day. Says Marines are looking for a few good men. He didn't know who the rest of them was. They figured he's one of them. So he joined the Marines, went to Vietnam, lost both of his legs stepping on landmine in Vietnam. Did God know what was going to happen to him? Yep. Did God have a plan for him? Yep. He said his testimony was his running days were over. Okay? Because he lost both of his legs. It stepping on landmine. But God had a perfect plan for him to be an evangelist. Okay? And preach from a wheelchair in his dress blues and preaching the gospel. Okay? And trying to win America back to Christ. God has a plan for everything. Bad things happen, good things happen. We look at it and say, God, does God know? Does God know where Joseph's at when he's sold into slavery by his brothers? Yes. Does God know where Joseph's at when Potiphar's wife lies about him and he is thrown in prison? Yes. Does God know where Joseph's at when God has given dreams to Pharaoh? Yes. The biggest part of the lesson for the kids tonight was God knows what's going on. Okay? Trusting, but it also means to be obedient because God's got a plan. Okay? Any questions on that teaching? So you can ask your kids about that tonight. Okay? Except for the high schoolers, the junior high, they're already upstairs. Okay. Any questions on that? The philosophy of it, knowing what God says. Okay. Okay, turn to 1 Timothy. Now we'll get to your lesson. I get excited about the kids' lesson. I get excited about your lesson. I cut into your time, but I want you to get what they got. Right, Jonathan? Jonathan gets to hear it twice because he's back here holding the kids still. try to hold the kids still. Okay? I want to make a couple announcements before you forget. Saturday morning is the ladies' mother-daughter banquet thing here at 10 o'clock, so that's here. Banquet, breakfast, brunch, whatever they call it, 10 o'clock. Whatever you have at 10 o'clock. I'll eat anything at 10 o'clock. If you go to Shoney's, I think that's when you get the breakfast and the lunch at the same time. If you time it right. Okay? So that's Saturday morning. Sunday's Mother's Day. I think we have a special gift for every mother, and a couple will have some flowers for the oldest and youngest, and most kids present, all this thing. Okay. Then we'll have a special singer Sunday. The kids are going to sing Sunday. They've been practicing with Miss Katrina, and they sound really good. Tammy's back in the back in the nursery. She could hear them. She said they sound really good. So they've been practicing with Katrina. And then we'll have another special singer that was here Sunday night. Her name's Jennifer. She sang for us Sunday night. Right, Charlie? She's pretty good, wasn't she? Actually, so sometimes when people sing, it almost like it's angels singing and it's glorifying God, right? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. I mean, sometimes when I sing, it's like George was singing Sunday morning. One of the lines of his song was something like David lays down his harp. Well, when I sing a lot of times, I think David lays down his harp and put both hands over his ears. Because I guess Brother John makes it sound like a rescue mission. Okay. Anyway, so this Jennifer's going to sing for us Sunday morning. I'm looking forward to that because she did a great job singing. Okay. 1 Timothy chapter 5. Okay. Hopefully you found it by now. Sorry if I feel like I'm rambling. I'm going 100 miles an hour because I'm trying to get to this, and I'll probably get done in 5 minutes. Slow down. 1 Timothy chapter 5, look at verse 22. Lay hands suddenly on no man. Back up chapter 5, verse 1, because we went through these verses last 2 weeks. Rebuke not the elder, but entreat him as a father, the younger man as brother, the elder woman as mother, the younger as a sister. Verse 3, with all purity. Verse 3, honor widows that are widows indeed. Look up this way for a second. In this whole chapter, God's been telling us how we're supposed to treat other people, right? In our relationship with other people, okay? Then we went to pastor things about the pastor last week, elders in the church, a little bit of that too. But then it goes into personal relationships in a different manner. We'll look at this. Look at these verses. Verse 22 says this: lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partakers of other men's sins. Keep thyself pure. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, and not often infirmities. Some men's sins are open beforehand, going before the judgment, and some men they follow after. Likewise also, the good works of some are manifest beforehand, and they that are otherwise cannot be hid. Stop reading right there. Okay, I want to look at these 4 verses. Now I got to tie some of them together. Okay, he says, "Keep thyself, lay hands suddenly on no man." I'm not sure exactly what that means, but he's talking about the verses prior to that. He's talking about pastors, okay? And maybe it's saying don't anoint somebody as pastor or choose a pastor too quickly. Neither be partakers of other men's sins. Possibly lay hands suddenly on no man means that you don't listen to an accusation and take that accusation right away and just jump up and beat somebody, right? Okay? Listen, be thoughtful. Brian and I had a conversation this evening before church about being patient and waiting, and make sure you got all the information before decisions are made. Okay, lay hands on them. Keep the biggest thing of that verse is to me is keep thyself pure. Okay, that you're not joining in wrath towards somebody else or anger at somebody else right away, jumping on bandwagons because everyone else did. Keep thyself pure. Keep thy mind pure, the heart pure. Keep thyself pure. And then it goes to the next verse, which has been to some people controversial, not controversial at all to me, because I want to read this, okay? Verse 23. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and not often infirmities. Who's he talking to? Who's the letter written to? Who's that letter written to? Who's Paul is penning the letter. Who's he writing to? Timothy. Okay, right, Charlie? Oh, Charlie didn't think of that. Oh, yeah, it's at the top of the page. Okay, this is a personal letter that Paul, the apostle, older apostle, is writing to Timothy, the younger preacher, the pastoring. He's telling him not laying hand. Stop. Look up this way. Timothy's job was to stay. Paul told him to stay where he was at, and you were to ordained leaders in these different churches where we started these churches. And you will stay there until these other men are trained and taught. Okay, and that's part of laying hands suddenly on the man. And that's why he's given the qualifications of a pastor. Back up a couple chapters, qualifications of a deacon, different things. Okay, so this is Timothy's job, but Paul is also writing him. It's a personal note because he brings up personal individuals towards the end of the book. And so he said, "Use no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, and not often infirmities." Okay. So some people say that means I can drink. Okay, how many think that's an excuse to drink? Anybody think that's an excuse to drink? I don't think it is either. Okay, we're going to look at this. First of all, before we get to the part about use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, he said, I want to make it real clear. I hate alcohol with passion. Okay, I've hated it for nearly 40 years. Okay, I think about Preacher Dave. Often, whenever I think of alcohol, I think about Preacher Dave, who's I think it's a 9-year-old, 10-year-old boy, watched his dad say goodbye as he's walking out the door on December 26th, I think it was, as his dad's walking out the door to get in the truck and ride somebody with a couple of friends, got killed by a drunk driver. Somebody else hit them and killed his dad. So my friend grew up without his dad, okay, because of a drunk driver, right? There's a lot of personal reasons. If I couldn't find any reason in the Bible not to like alcohol, I'd have personal enough reasons why I don't like alcohol, okay? But John, that verse is Paul's telling Timothy, use a little wine for thy stomach's sake, okay? I have enough personal reasons. I know somebody that's told me this story several times, that the worst day of his life was his dad. His dad drank all the time. And when this boy was about 14 years old, 13, 14 years old, and his dad came home and his dad said something. His dad had been drinking again, and his dad said something to his mom, and he laughed at the wrong time. He just chuckled, smirked just a little bit because something was said that was funny. He thought it was funny. He took it. The 13-year-old boy, he took it funny. His dad jumped on him and had him down on the ground, was like MMA fighting, was just beating on him and beating on him and beating on him. And that boy's uncle had to go come drag that man off of him. Would the man have done that if he's sober? Anybody knows sober guys that beat on? Anybody know sober guys that beat on their kids like that? No. You know drunk guys that do that? I've known a few. Okay, just a few. Okay, listen to this. When I think about that in the news today of the 2-year-old twin boys that were, I wonder if alcohol and drugs were involved. Does it say? Didn't say. Didn't say. Just like the transgender person who went into school and shot up the kid, shot 6 people a month ago now. Most times in the news they don't say anything about the transgender movement of the person. Okay, it'll be take a little investigation to find out. You ask the neighbors, are those people on drugs? Were they drinking? Were they an altered mind state to padlock their children in a door and flip Cheerios, what it was, Fruit Loops Cheerios under the door? Okay, was alcohol involved? I'd say probably so. Okay, but we'll find out. Okay, I'll jump to conclusions, Brother John. Don't jump to the. Okay, I won't. Okay. When I think about widows and orphans, that are widows indeed. Earlier in the chapter, we talked about widows indeed in this chapter. When I think about widows and orphans, most widows that I know that have sober family, the families take care of them. Most widows that I know that don't have sober family have no one to take care of them, right? Or they won't take care of them. Okay. Most orphans that I know, or people that are fatherless, that's the right way. Not all children that are fatherless has alcohol involved. Like Preacher Dave's dad was killed by a drunk driver, but a lot of people that, in my lifetime, in my personal experience that I've known, the kids that had the worst situations in life, alcohol's involved or drugs were involved, and that's why the kids end up in the situations that they're in. Bothers me. Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? That's my statements on alcohol. Okay. It is. We're gonna get to that context. Yeah, we're gonna get to that context in a few minutes. Okay. I want to flip back to Proverbs for a few minutes. Okay, the book of Proverbs. Because I want to look at wine for just a few minutes. Because in the Bible, the word wine is used in different ways. Okay, it is used in the Bible. The word wine is used for grapes that are still on the vine. Okay, it's the same word, same 4-letter word. It's used for grapes that are still on the vine. It's for grapes that are squeezed into a cup that is just juice, but they call it wine. And it's just freshly squeezed juice, and it's referred to as wine. A couple in our church a couple years ago used to make wine. No alcohol in it. Tasted really good. I had some. Okay, there's no alcohol whatsoever. They had grapes. They picked their own grapes on their house. But it's freshly squeezed, and you do stuff to preserve it, not add sugar to make it ferment. Okay? So wine is used for grapes on the vine. It's used for freshly squeezed grape juice. It's used for what they use a lot of times for that could be. It was almost like a condensed, like a condensed version of juice that you could add water to it later on and make it almost like a dehydrated, but they didn't dehydrate it. They let it dry out. Okay, but it's like condensed when you mix water with it and add together. And it's also used for strong drink in wine. Okay, how do you get the strong drink? You add sugar to it and let it ferment. Okay, let's Proverbs chapter 20, if you will. I want to look, I just want to look at a couple of verses on this because in case anyone has questions, Brother John, because you're going to justify drinking in a few minutes. No, I'm not going to justify drinking. Okay? I hate alcohol with passion. Too many of my friends and family members have proved that it's not good. Okay? Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1. Here's this. Got it? Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Read that verse out loud with me, will you? Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Okay, look at this way. Nobody sets out in life and says, I want to be an alcoholic. Okay? It was mentioned in Sunday school a couple weeks ago. Someone said, I'm an alcoholic. Okay? No child at age 9 says, gee, I want to be an alcoholic when I grow up. Okay? No one says that. Okay? But wine is a mocker, makes fun of you. Strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived by that process is not wise. Well, before I ever had a drink, I remember I was delivering newspapers. I started delivering newspapers when I was about 8 years old. I had about 200 papers delivered every morning. I routes through Canal City. But I remember going around the corner in the Trevilian's building. They had apartments upstairs. Went around the corner one morning. I was only about 8 years old. I was delivering newspapers. And I went around the corner. There was a guy laying there, drunk. Okay? And just as I rounded the corner, he moved. And I thought, oh, he's trying to grab me. You know, 8-year-old boys got a vivid imagination. I ran out as fast as I could, went and found my dad, said, Dad, you had to take the papers up the steps. I can't go up the steps. There's a drunk guy in there. Of course, Dad wasn't afraid of anything. He walked in there. You know, I caught up with him later. He went back up there and took the papers where they're supposed to go. Okay. I said then, I'm never going to take a drink. But I was deceived by it. Well, a couple years later, by my friends. Yeah, but everyone else was doing it, right? Family members do it. There's nothing wrong with it. And some people can have one and never have another one. Some people have one, you don't see them for 3 days, right? And we all know. So you never become an alcoholic if you never take the first drink, right? Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. Whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. The deception is there's nothing wrong with, right? The deception is the world saying to you, this bud's for you, okay? The Anheuser-Busch Clydesdale horses. There's nothing more fun than that, okay? The deception is in all the commercials and what is portrayed as a wonderful life, but it's not a wonderful life, okay? Okay, let's read another couple more verses. Turn to Proverbs. We're still in Proverbs. Anybody got questions? Proverbs chapter 23. How do you know, Brother John? How do you know when it's wine is just squeezed grapes, or grapes on the vine? How it's used in context. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. We know what it means, right? Okay. Proverbs chapter 23. Look down verse 29. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Means people contentions can't get along with anybody. Why? Who hath babblings? Can't understand what they're saying. Who hath wounds without cause? They wake up and say, where'd this come from? How'd I get a black eye? Well, how did my arm? Okay. Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry along with the wine. They go to seek mixed wine. Okay. Here's the key verse. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth its color in the cup, when it moveth itself right. You know what that means? When it ferments. Okay? Because we've seen it in the movies and commercials, right? Someone pour a little bit of wine in the glass, they'll squeeze it down, they'll say, smell it. And it's what? It's not the natural grape juice that was been squeezed and put in that thing. It's changed its color. Okay? It's changed its taste. It might actually be smoother to taste than Welch's grape juice. Okay? But it's perverted. Or it's changed. Once it's changed its color, I don't drink it. Don't even look at it. I don't want it. Okay? Okay. But look not thou upon the wine when it's red, when it gives its color in the cup, when it moves itself right. At the last it biteth like a serpent, but I didn't think it was going to bite me, but it did. At the last it biteth like, that's the deception thing of chapter 20, verse 1. At the last it biteth like a serpent, singing like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, thine heart shall utter perverse things. Thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of the mast, like the top of the ship, the top of the mast going back and forth like this, and everybody knows what that's like. Okay? They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. That means people beat on me. And they have beaten me, and I felt it not, because I couldn't feel anything. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again. What's wrong with it? The deception is the world telling you there's nothing wrong with it, or it's okay to have one, till you find out you're the alcoholic too. And then it controls your life. It controls everything. Good friend, came here for a long time. Successful business. Good guy, good family guy. Drank before he got saved. Went back. He told me he went back to the pool room down here to witness to his friends. He saw the car out front. He went in the pool, talked to them. Okay, to tell them about Jesus. That's his plan. That's why he went in there. Stayed too long. He had one. Right? Had one and another and another. Lost his business, his home, lost his job, lost his family, not just the house, he lost his family, lost everything. Okay? One of the last times I saw him was at a rescue mission up in Charleston. I went up there to preach to the rescue mission. He's in there. Hey, Brother John. Come up and hug me. Hey, brother. Hate to see you here. Good to see you. Hate to see you here. Okay? And you think it's not going to happen to me? It stingeth like an adder, like a poisonous snake. You think it's not going to happen to me? It cost him everything. Okay? Any questions? Because I won't get to the other side of this, because Paul told Timothy it's okay, right? Paul told Timothy to use a little wine for their stomach's sake, and often infirmities. Okay? This is exactly the words he used. Use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and often infirmities. Why? For medical purposes, right? Remember the Waltons, the Baldwin sisters, they had a recipe for their medicine, right? Well, some people didn't use it as medicine, okay? You think about this. You think about the bad side of it. Sunday morning, the message, part of the message was the Ammonites, the Moabites, and they were started by incest. Their whole family trees went all back to Lot and his two daughters, and incest he had with his daughters, and their whole heathen nations that came from them was because he was drunk. And the Bible tells us that, right? There's a curse that everybody knows about Noah building the ark. There's a curse that came to one of Noah's sons because Noah planted a vineyard and got drunk. I don't even know if he knew what was going to happen to him when he made the wine. I don't know that there's nothing in the scriptures before that, first 6 chapters of Genesis, that says anybody got drunk or absolutely. It says nothing about Noah knowing what was going to happen. But once he got drunk and something happened, it brought a curse on one of his sons. Okay? A curse that lasts for generations, right? So that's how bad it is. But the Apostle Paul writes to Timothy, says, use a little wine for that stomach's sake. Okay, use, keyword. Okay? Why would they do that? Anybody ever take Tums? I do. You ever take Tums? Or Rolaids, something? Okay? Okay? You know what we got down here in the corner? Walgreens. You know what they didn't have? Walgreens, right? You know, now we have, they had some chemistry back then too, but they have chemistry to any big stuff. They fix about anything, right? I mean, they didn't then, right? Some places didn't have clean water, right? So you drink, use a little wine for that stomach's sake and often infirmities, because some of the places where Timothy was going was not sanitary. Going as a missionary, okay? Well, that means it's okay for missionaries to drink? No, that's not what it says. Not today, but not in the sense of going down to the 21 pool room and having one, okay, or 12, whatever it takes you. He was saying, for your stomach's sake, and for your sickness, this is the cure. Luke was a physician that traveled with Paul. Luke may have told Timothy the same thing, right? That doesn't say be a drunkard. It's use it a little wine. Okay. Now, I use in my personal illustrations about drinking, I use family members that I know, right, or friends that I know, or neighbors that I've had. In personal illustrations, I use this all the time. But for this text, I'm going to go back to my great grandmother, who lived. Most of y'all been to the farm in Ripley. She lived in that house. Her and her husband built that house. And they lived in that house. They kept a still, somewhere out there was a still, and she was up in her 90s, and she did not have, I never met her, she died before I was born. They did not use alcohol to get drunk, but they use alcohol for medicinal purposes. Okay, I mean, you pour it on stuff, you light fire with it, you do all kinds of stuff. I mean, but she used it for her bones. She was older, like in her 90s. Her bones ached, and my aunts said that every afternoon she would have a shot, right, for medicinal purposes. Or Brother John, Brother John says I could go have one for medicinal purposes. But you can, yeah. You pour it on the table, light it, right? You pour it on some wood and light it, and get the fire going, right? You can use it for all kinds of stuff, but it was a use for it, right? People with high fever, sometimes they would use that like cough medicine. It's got a lot of alcohol in it, right? That's using it. That's not giving away for it to control your life, right? Or even people ask me if social drinking is okay. Not for me. I don't want to. But I don't want to have the first one because I know what it will do to me or has done to me, right? I don't want to have the first one. So I don't hardly ever. I'm telling you, I've been married 41 years. I probably haven't gone through 2 bottles of cough syrup in 41 years, right? I mean, it had to be really, really bad. If something be really wrong, I mean, I'm gargling salt water and everything else before putting the alcohol in my mouth, right? Why? Even if it's cough syrup, okay? Why? Because the drunkard alcoholic, he can get drunk off cough syrup. That's a lean find, right? I mean, I know a guy gave me this story that his uncle would come to his house and drink all the cough, go in the bathroom and drink all the cough syrup, just because he needs something. Thought he needed something, okay? Don't make excuses. I think about this too. Now, it's not just alcohol. You get a medical card to smoke pot, okay? Well, Brother John, it helps. You can find an excuse to have anything you want, okay? You can get a doctor to write off to get you any kind of pills you want, right? I mean, prescription medicine has been big in the last 10 years here in West Virginia. Don't believe me, go to Williamson. There's a lot of places you just go around and say, wow, everybody here is on that. Okay. Don't be deceived by it. Don't think I can handle it. Because people think you can handle it, wreck their car. People think they can handle it, wreck their marriage and their home. People think they can handle it, beat on their kids. And they think that everything's fine. It's not. Okay? Famous last words. Nothing wrong with, yeah, there is. If God says don't do it, right? If he says don't even look at it, I don't want to look at it. Okay? If he says, wine is a mark of strong drink is raging, whosoever is deceived thereby, that means if the alcohol is lying to me, I don't want to listen to it, right? And famous last words, nothing wrong with, and I can handle it. I tell you how many people think they can, and they can't. You have questions or comments on this subject? My dad had a doctor told him to. Okay, he said it was the best thing for a medical condition that he had. Okay, but he didn't. He didn't. He did at times, but it wasn't. He wasn't going to let it control him at all. He never let it control him for medical conditions. But I don't want to seek it. And I won't be like the guy in Proverbs 23 that when I wake, I'll seek it yet again. After everyone's beat on me and I wake up with bruises, and I don't know how I got hurt, and I got redness of eyes, and it's controlling my life, and I don't want to wake up and go do it again. Okay? I don't want it to control me at all. Okay. Any comments, questions? All right. Let's dismiss it. Thank you, Lord, for loving us. Thank you for truth in your word. I pray you help us understand that you put up those big signs that say stop here. And we can either walk right over both those signs and destroy our lives, or we can stop the signs. Okay, I'm stopping. I pray you'll help us to see when the bridge out's down the road, bridge is out down the road of life, that we won't take our family over the cliff because the bridge will be gone. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for giving us warnings. Thank you for your word. I pray you'll help us to heed your warnings and listen to your word, to hide your word in our heart, that we don't sin against you,
Thank you for the truth you give us. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen. Thanks for coming out tonight.